Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. What an amazing day it has been. I heard some of the speeches before me. It was all about AI. How do we build it? How do we ship it? How do we improve the processes that we currently have? And rightly so. It's one of the most topical subjects of our time. Is what we do every day. It's one of the most important things also in my remit at the moment. We do a lot of initiatives around AI, but I want to talk to you today about something different. I want to talk about us, the humans, the I in the AI. Our intelligence, our craft as product people. And how do we stay relevant in this new world that is rapidly changing? Think about what you do every day. If you're like me, you wake up at maybe 6 a.m., you check your emails, and this morning I already had 2 escalations. Some product wasn't working as it should be in Mauritius. Well, I wish I was in Mauritius, but I wasn't. Instead, I had to deal with an emergency. Customers were complaining. Shortly thereafter, I had a complaint from New Zealand. Something wasn't working again. I'm sure each and every one of you wake up in the morning and there are gazillion problems that you have to solve, because it doesn't matter what problems they are, product is always there to solve them, right? You're the first contact, not operations, it's actually product. Think about the other things you do. You get half-baked ideas from your stakeholders, and you manage somehow to turn them into real products that people actually buy. You deal with engineering teams that think deadlines are maybe optional, or you deal with designer teams who think deadlines are an insult. You also deal with salespeople who go and sell features that don't even exist. And then we complain about hallucinating AIs. Think about hallucinating salespeople that you then have to deal with. All of these things we do, and aren't we brilliant as product managers? Absolutely brilliant. And you know what else? We are also very hardworking, because that is our factory settings. Brilliant and hardworking, right? So, if that's the case, explain to me that statistic. Only 1% of CPOs make it as CEOs. Only 1%. The majority of CEOs are general managers or divisional presidents who actually were salespeople before, or business development people. Even CFOs, the people who tell you no to your brilliant product ideas, even they have a 10% chance of making it to the top, not us. And yes, there are some notable exceptions. CEO of Alphabet, CEO of YouTube, and a lot of us are now part of the executive committee. But somehow it just feels like we hit a ceiling. And I was thinking about this. Why is it? When I first saw this data, to be honest with you, I was a little bit relieved. It's obviously not my terrible interview skills. But I believe there's 2 reasons for that. Number 1, all roles that make it to the CEO all have P&L responsibilities. They own revenues, they own costs, profits. We as product managers, we own product features, roadmaps, backlogs, all really, really important stuff. But do they make it to the boardroom? Sadly not. Secondly, a lot of organizations today, still to this day, think of the product organization as a delivery function. We take orders, we execute. We are the kitchen. We're not the restaurant. And if the kitchen doesn't go out to the diners don't even know that the kitchen exists. The diners, the CEO, the board, the investors, they talk to the waiter who waits on them. They talk to the front man who deals with the customer. And when it comes to choosing who's going to run the restaurant, they choose the front door manager. Why not? So I want to talk today about how we can change this. Okay, and share a little bit of playbook around this, because, as I said, the world is changing and we need to stay relevant. And I think it's also a golden opportunity for us as a cohort of professionals to elevate ourselves further. I started my career many, many years ago as a management consultant with a company called Buzalen that sadly doesn't exist anymore. I don't think it was my fault. I learned how to very quickly frame problems, put them into nice little PowerPoint charts, and eventually, and sometimes also solve some problems. Then I moved into banking. I joined Barclays, which is a great institution. I became their head of strategy. That was great. And then finally, I made it running a business unit, an asset finance business unit, during those dreaded years of the financial crisis. 4 years. There I learned what it means to own numbers and be called upon month after month. What's your revenues? What's your cost? And what is your mounting impairment? It was extremely stressful, but it really taught me the power of numbers. After 4 years of doing this, we had to sell because the risk and reward profile wasn't what we needed as a bank back then. And the bank was kind enough to give me a chance at a new career because I wanted to pivot towards product and technology and payments. So I moved into commercial cards, and I started as a director of product in commercial cards, and then worked myself up over 6 years until I became CPO of Barclays. And then I moved and I did the Fintech thing. I joined one wonderful company called PaySafe, which had amazing technology people, learned a lot there. And now I'm at Mastercard and I manage some of our largest platforms. You can read the rest on LinkedIn. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that all 3 careers taught me something which I'd like to sort of culminate in terms of what it takes to be a general manager within a CPO role. And it's really just 3 things. I know this sounds very simple, but they're actually very difficult to execute as most simple things today. You must own the P&L. You must design for distribution, and you must escape the duality trap. And I will explain what I mean by all this. Most importantly, though, identify the value drivers and create a growth narrative. Because there is nothing that CEOs and boards don't love more than a CPO who actually understands how a business can grow and can articulate that in language that senior executives understand and love bouncing backwards and forwards with you. Let's start with owning the P&L. Through all the product organizations that I ever worked with, one thing always have struck me. In my first meetings, I always bring the CFO with me. I said to him, come on, show us the numbers. And not just the high-level numbers, but the detailed numbers. You guys will be surprised, at least 50% of my team comes and says, wow, we've never seen those numbers. Really? Never seen these numbers? So I'm asking you, do you know how much money your company makes? Do you know how much your division makes? Do you know how much your product makes? Just reflect on that. We don't really think about it as product people, and we should. We also need to think about our cost and our pricing and all the other things. If we don't think about this, then for sure the salespeople will think. They will sell something, and then it's your fault for being too expensive to deliver, right? So how do we incorporate that? Because I put own in inverted commas. Because as a CPO, formally, you do not own a P&L. That is clear. But you don't need the organization to give you permission to own. It's in your behaviors that you own a P&L. And there's a few tricks to do that. So number one, if your OKRs don't have as an objective revenues, then you're doing something wrong. That needs to be right there at the top. And every drivers that drive revenue growth, like cross-sell, for example, or whatever it is that you do in your organization, that is super important. Equally, you'd be surprised how much revenues we leave on the table by not thinking about pricing and all the parameters of pricing. Just to give you an idea, right? We sort of build the features and then pricing is something that we think afterwards. Yet if you incorporate pricing in your design, you can then go to the CFO, you can go to the commercial teams, and you can, for example, say to them, there could be one price for this transaction and there could be a second price for another transaction. Give them optionality if you think about the pricing. And while you're at it, make sure that pricing can actually be built. You know how many times I had manual billing at the end just because we launched something very, very quickly and then someone had the idea, oh my God, we could really price for that, but it was unfortunately manually. Similarly, with costs. What are your total costs, your marginal cost? Do you build in-house or do you outsource? And all of these parameters you need to take into consideration. And the irony is that we have all this data as product people. We have more data than any other department in the organization. Yet somehow we don't always use it to think about commercial outcomes. One of the biggest mistakes that I've seen time and time again in every product organization that I've been is that we get pulled in the engineering agenda. So as you know, a lot of companies have many, many platforms. They come from mergers, and so let's say you have 2 or 3 or 4 platforms. You got the engineering team says, hey, you know, we need to consolidate things, or we need to build a new platform with great new APIs that are customer friendly, and you know, forget about all this old crap and then just put it all in a nice one. And we agree with them. We find, oh yes, you know, these old APIs are not so good. Let's try the new APIs. Lovely, right? And we bring in all the business cases and the rest of it, and we're trying to march in, and then here's the crux. Someone says, okay, what's happening with existing customers? Well, existing customers will just have to reintegrate into the new APIs, for example. Existing customers usually make 80% of our revenues. And the moment you ask existing customers to reintegrate into a new API, at least 50% will go shopping again. Have you incorporated that parameter in your analysis? Probably not, or maybe didn't really think about that. So there are other ways to modernize platforms. You need to take these parameters into consideration. Otherwise, you're not doing your business service. Second, so this is an example of how I like to frame my annual priorities. Of course, we have all our details, KPIs, and the rest of it. But when I try to talk to senior management about what are our priorities for the year, and every year I use usually the same type of format. People who worked with me know that. I start at the top with, you know, financial targets or targets that are sort of sacrosanct, and then I try to group the initiatives into narratives that I can talk to management. So for example, I never say to management, oh, we're going to work on 5 new local payment methods this year. No, I turn around and I say, we're expanding our geographic reach, and I'm enabling the teams to sell in this country or in that country because we now have local payment methods. Do you see how different that is? And I'm attaching some numbers to this. And we're hoping that sales will give us X, Y, and Z. Oh, yeah, well done, Maria. I don't say I'm adding new features or new products. No, what I'm saying is we're in a business where processing is a low margin business, and the only way it's going down. So we need to add value-added services in order to maintain our margins, and I'm working on 3 or 4 value-added services to add. Sounds different, right? Of course. And so this is what you need to think. When you think about your product roadmaps and your OKRs and KPIs, you need to translate them when you talk to senior management so they understand what value you bring. You don't need to do this with engineering, but please do it when you talk up the line. Secondly, and this is actually a super, super important point, you need to design for distribution. Let me give you an example here to bring it to life. When I first moved into product and was the product director for commercial cards at Barclays, we had this amazing idea of a new product to do B2B payments. And so basically help companies pay their invoices with virtual card or purchasing card. So I collaborated with a Fintech company called Confirma, amazing outfit, and we generated this product called Precision Pay. It was my baby, okay? We designed all these wonderful workflows, approvals, and everything. It was a fantastic product. And we launched it, and we had amazing feedback back from customers. I was so happy and so proud. My first real product, right? From design all the way to launch. I went to the CEO together with my team, really proud. Hello, this is what we've done. And the response of the CEO was, this is great, Maria. How are you going to 10x the sales? We only have 5 salespeople. Well, the usual mantra is, well, you build a great product, build it and they will come, right? No way, guys. You have to build it, you have to embed it, and you have to price it, and then maybe they come. So we then, of course, as a result of all this feedback, we ended up kind of embedding our platform into large enterprise ERP systems like Coupa, like SAP, and we took the products to new heights. Of course, now, if you think about it, channels are proliferating. You really need to understand where your product is selling. If you build a checkout button for humans, and then on the other side, you now have an agentic channel, an LLM product that has a credit card, well, it's not going to work, is it? So what we do need to do as product people is to think about all the different channels and all the different parameters that we need to build if we really want to grow our products in the different channels. So for example, if your product is catered for SMEs, then you better have a beautiful portal where in future it could potentially be a marketplace where we can cross-sell a lot of other products for SMEs that are useful for SMEs. But do know that yes, this is a high margin channel, but it has a lot of churn and not a lot of volumes. On the other hand, and by the way, these examples are all examples from my business. I'm sure you can find similar examples in your business. I'm in payments after all. For example, but then if you think about platforms and how do we cater payments in platforms, that's completely different. They want high availability, they want speed, they need geographic expansion, all these different characteristics. I won't go through them one by one in details. But what I'm saying is, I as a product manager think about the product characteristics that are going to help me to grow in this channel. But a GM thinks differently. He's thinking, okay, Maria, all these channels, which one is the 50 million and which one is the 500 million channel? And that you need to think so too. Because I could then say to him, hey, I think the platform channel has the greatest TAM, total addressable market, and these are the things that we need to do in order to grow our product in this particular channel. So designing for the channel as opposed to just the product and then trying to retrofit it into the channels. The other thing, escaping the duality trap. I should have really said escaping the fragmentism. And we as product people are our own worst enemies. I really believe that. I've been in product now for 12 years, and it is amazing and astonishing how many changes we had in terms of how we work. Remember, it was waterfall, then it was agile, and now it was safe, and now it's maybe agentic. But we tend to fragment our people. So we have on one hand product development people who are very technical, who work extremely well with our technology folks. 2 of them are together like that, correct? But they are too technical for salespeople. So then what we do, we have product proposition people who think about go-to-market, who think about what is the proposition to the channel, who sit down with the salespeople. And then you try to bring them together within our own house, and you talk like that to each other. I see this in my own team. And the question is why? How difficult is it if you are considered a technical product manager, you can't think of your own strategy, of your product strategy? Really? And if you are a proposition person, you cannot answer some basic technical questions that sales ask you, so you need to have the technical product manager on speed dial? That's not a good way. It doesn't help us stretch. It doesn't help us elevate the conversation. And I really think we need to stop that. So what we then like to do is to think about ways in which move away from the product roadmap. Yes, we still have the product roadmaps, they have product models, everything else, but can you talk in terms of outcomes to your senior management? Instead of saying, yes, I'm going to do unified tokens in Q1, I turn around and I say, I am building capabilities to improve our authorization rates and reduce our fraud, increasing 3% our transactions volume. So these are some of the things that I think are important. And I want to leave you with a last thought. As AI is going to change our world slowly and steady, I know what you're all thinking about. This is all great, Maria, but I still have all the problems that I need to solve early in the morning. I get it. And you're going to tell me, Maria, you're actually asking me to do more work. Yes, I do ask you to do more work. I do ask you to think about all these parameters. But here's something that I, in my many, many years, understand about human nature. If you understand what is important for your survival, you're going to switch. You're going to have that switch in your brain which says, this is no longer important for me. And when you have that, your brain adapts and you start thinking about what are the tasks that I'm doing that are not going to help me to be that great advisor to the CEO. And you're going to try to automate that. And all the tools that we discussed today, all of them can help you, not to take away your role, but to take away some of the grunt so you can start applying your judgment, because your human judgment is what needed going forward, and how you can then start thinking about not roadmaps, but growth narratives for your company and real outcomes. And that is what collectively is going to get us out of the kitchen. Thank you.